Okay, so this is meeting, it says meeting 2, but it's really meeting 1, because the first meeting, we basically talk about our goals and what we want to achieve. So we can just go ahead with some of this. Previously, we introduced ourselves. Can you read this okay? Is it large enough? I can make it a little larger, just a minute. Better?
That's great. Yes.
Okay, super, super. I can even make it larger than that, so everybody feels good about it. Okay, so I'd like to just take a minute to, for persons who are new, is anyone new here, or are we all return?
I'm brand new, Dalton,
Okay,
and I don't even have my book, Darus Salam.
that's all right.
That it was delivered to Canada.
Okay. That's quite all right. Don't worry about it.
So I have to call them tomorrow
Yeah, you'll get it.
and see where in Canada they delivered it to.
Okay. You can also just go right to Amazon, and Amazon will sell the same book.
No, I can't, because I'm in, it's not in Amazon.ca. If it had been, I would have.
Oh, I see.
It's only in Amazon.com,
What part of Canada are you?
Ontario.
Okay. So then we have
Excuse me,
Daughter Forum
Dalton, I
Public-
have a question. Will you
Yes,
be
please.
sharing this text?
Yes, these are the notes for this
Okay.
first part here is just notes, and then
Okay.
this is the text here.
Okay,
I won't include the text every single time,
Okay.
but you'll get the idea.
okay,
and
wonderful.
then,
Thank you. Oh, this is marvelous.
Yeah,
Exactly
we'll
what I
follow
need.
on in the book, and what I will pull up in a minute or two
Okay,
is there is on the if you go to the Noble Quran website, you can
Mhm.
download the Noble Quran right from the website, and you can
oh,
work from it there. And it has every single chapter, and it will even it will even talk to them using tajweed, which is the way that they pronounce the Arabic.
oh, wow.
when they're
Oh, I
doing
didn't
the
realize that. That would have been a
Yeah.
lot easier.
Yeah, I'm going to get that site for you in a
Okay.
couple of minutes, but
That's
first,
okay. No rush, no
let's
rush. I
just
don't
go
want
through
to,
here.
no, let's just carry on. Thank you.
Okay. So now we have the new vocabulary for some. Surah, which means a chapter, surah. And hadith is a saying. You're going to see this one or hear this one a lot. It's a saying from the prophet of God. It's authoritative in that they've checked it out, and yes, he did say it, but he didn't include it in the Quran. Now, the Quran is the one and only place where the word of God is absolutely revealed, and there's no question about it. The hadiths support the Quran. They support it the way, say, the letters to Timothy support the gospel according to Jesus Christ. So it's sort of like that. But we do know and we understand that the four gospels are, as far as anyone can tell, and as far as history has given us, the words of Christ Jesus as spoken from God. So it works. So the Quran is the same way. It should be taken as God's word, not necessarily literally, that is to say, not physically literally, obviously, that has many allusions, etc., as we learn. But what it says in there goes. Yeah. So it's a hadith. It's the Quran, but it will illustrate many situations on which the prophet of God might have spoken. They're not all the same. Some are not authenticated, and some are actually contradictory. Yes, this is true. But the main ones are authenticated. Usually the ones that are accepted by Sunni, that's the larger division in Islam. Sunni is about 4/5 of all the Muslims in the world, and Shia is about 1/5 or 20%, maybe something like that. Most of the Sunni hadiths have all been accepted, and they've worked very, very hard on that. That was done at about during the time of about 1100 or 1000, 1100, 1200, right in there, in that area. Okay, ayah is a verse. So it's like, this is a verse. So you would say Surah 23, Ayah 54 means chapter 23, verse 54. But that's just so you see it and you'll know what it is. So we're going to begin with reading the first one, which is called the opening. And it's a very special one. I'm going to read it out loud, and then I'm going to make it available offline so that after we finish here, if I can't pull it up right away, you'll be able to see it. Unless you give me a moment, and I can try to pull it up right now. Just a second here. Just let me go over here and go to, all this work. And we go to Noble Quran. And if I don't get it now, I'll get it for you next time. All right, I don't see it right offhand. I'm not going to waste any more time with it. So, but I will get it for you. Don't worry. And this only has a few verses in it. It only has seven verses. And the interesting thing is they're very short. And it's one of the shortest surahs, but not the shortest. It's one of the shortest in the whole Quran. And I'm just going to read it, and you just follow along. If you have your book, if you don't, just follow along for a minute. In the name of God, or Allah, they will just say Allah during this whole thing. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful, which is pronounced Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. And there, it is said, that is, there is an understanding about the Quran. A philosopher said that all of the the contents of the Quran, the gist of the Quran, is in the first surah, Surat al-Fatiha, it's called, or Fatiha, the opening. And of those, all of that is in the first verse. And of that, all of it is in the first, can be found in the first letter. And what is the first letter? Ba, B-A. And that we have an association with that letter. Ba and Ha is Baha. And then he says, finally, and even of that, all the importance of that is contained in the dot below the Ba. Now in Arabic, there's a little dot below the Ba, and I think maybe in Persian too. So that's a very interesting statement, and you can see from that a great deal of mysticism and has come up over the years to enrich and enlighten us about this. In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful. All praise and thanks are God's, the Lord of all mankind, which it says here, the Lord of Alameen, all mankind. The most gracious, the most merciful, the only owner of the day of judgment, of the day of recompense. That is the only controller, the one who is the absolute boss over all of this. You alone do we worship. That means you, God, alone do we worship. And you alone, from you alone, we ask for help. And then there's an interesting thing. It says, guide us to the straight way. And you've seen that in the writings of both Baha'u'llah and Abdul Baha, if you're Baha'is and you're following this. Oh God, guide us to the straight path. Grant us light to the straight path. Then it says this, which is kind of interesting. It says, the way of those whom you have bestowed, on whom you have bestowed your grace. This is verse 7. Not the way of those who have earned your anger. Now, the Muslims have translated this from beginning as meaning the Jews, nor those who went astray. That would be the Christians. And the reasons they call the Christians those who went astray is because they believe that Christ was the begotten Son of God. that he begat a son. He and Mary begat a son, which of course is we don't believe that. We don't follow that at all. So that is the first, that's all there is to it, just those 7 verses. And it's very interesting. And then you'll see, if you do get this book, you will see a whole couple of pages of notes about it, what this person said and what that person said and everything. And I'm not going to go over it now, but I hope that you'll have it. I'll give you a taste of it. For instance, where they say here, the actual word used in the Quran is Rab, and that is for a certain thing. And there is no power equivalent for Rab. There's no proper equivalent for Rab in English, et cetera, et cetera. And it goes through all the details of bringing this into the English language. Well, we have an advantage. Our advantage is we have the Book of Certitude, the Kitab Quran, which absolutely explains to us what the Quran means, because it goes through the Quran and all the important meanings that it is supposed to have, not only for Muslims and Jews, but also for Christians and for Baha'is and for Babis, for that matter. So now I want to stop for a minute and go to one other thing, but let me ask for questions first, if you don't mind. This is the first, our first lesson, so let's just be a little informal here. Does anyone have a question so far? Okay.
Yes, I
Yes.
do.
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
okay.
Sorry.
It seems as though the different Qurans have different translations.
Yes.
And sometimes they're not quite in sync or mesh with the
Right.
meaning.
Sure, that's true. The reason I like this one, this one here, which we've seen the cover, the Noble Quran. The reason I like this one in all the different publications that it's made is because it does have all these notes and it has all these hadiths written in it. And when you go to the other Qurans, they may read better. They may sound a little more lucid to the ear, but they don't have all these notes. The persons, the part of Islam that translated this Quran, they weren't just Sunnis, they were Wahhabis. And you may know that the Wahhabis are from
Okay.
Saudi Arabia. So they follow a very strict interpretation. So you might find some of the words to be a little awkward or something like that. However, it's worth it because you have all these hadiths written down. They are all numbered. They tell you where they come from and everything else. Now, with that said, is there any further question on that part? Yes, Mary.
Yes. So it's interesting, the word Rab. I'm Maltese, and Maltese is a Semitic language.
Mhm.
It's in the same family of language. And Rab in my language means anger.
Aha, interesting. Well, it's very interesting. There are only certain words across all the Semitic languages where the words mean pretty much exactly the same thing. That's what someone told me one time in the elevator when he said that the word Aden, ADN, which means paradise or like that, is pretty much the same across all the different Semitic languages, but it's not true with many of the other words are not that way.
Yeah, there's sort of what I call foundation words
Yeah.
that are, so close as to be almost identical.
Mhm.
Anybody, including even me, could recognize that it's sort of the same word.
Right. Okay, so another hand is up. I don't see all the hands, can't see them all, so just
Yeah,
shout out.
Trevor, please.
Yes,
Trevor.
I guess, so I am a Christian and not a Baha'i. I guess,
Could you maybe expand on what you believe begot means?
Egot?
Yeah, begot.
Je-
That was used in that first chapter there. What's the Baha'i understanding of that?
The Baha'i understanding of begotten, a begotten son?
Yeah.
Oh, that means that God actually entered into a human being, and then the human being had Christ Jesus. Whereas the Baha'i belief is that the soul or the spirit went into Mary, because we believe that the Baha'is believe that God doesn't beget, nor is he begotten. He says be, and it is. He is the one who joins the letters B and E together. All he does is say be, and it is, as he did with the earth and everything between it, and the 7 days and the rest of it. This amazing story. It's a wonderful story. It really makes the imagination begin to change gears when we go into all the possibilities that, for instance, the first few pages of Genesis tell us about the world. And if we have time later on, we'll go into it. And
Yeah, but
really,
thank you for that. I guess when I think of the word begot, it just shows that Jesus is unique, and he's also God in human flesh. That's my understanding of it.
okay,
And I
right.
put a link in the comments as well.
Right. Okay. Well, we think all of them are Muhammad and Moses, and all of them are God in human flesh. It is the Word made flesh. And the way we see that is, if you think of a mirror, if you imagine a mirror, and I show you the sun in the mirror, and I say, this is the sun, I speak the truth. But if I say this is not a sun, but just a reflection of the sun, this also is the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Because God is independent of the sun is independent of the mirror. The sun doesn't rely on the mirror. The mirror relies on the sun to show the sun. And if something happens to the mirror, then you can't see the sun in it. So the sun is independent, not dependent upon what is shown in the mirror. The mirror is dependent upon the sun in order to show the sun in it. And so this is how we see the Word of God, the Spirit of God, as actually inheriting the messenger of God that has been sent to man at a certain time and a certain people. And each and every one of them was capable of doing what any and all of the others did. The reason that they didn't all do the same thing is because they came at different times, and they had different purposes to fulfill. And so that's why certain things were given to us by one prophet, one messenger of God. We call them manifestations because they are manifestations of God. Now we also, if I can take one more moment, make a distinction between major manifestations and minor prophets. For instance, the Old Testament prophets like Isaiah and etc., and Micah, or St. John or St. Luke. These are not on the same level as, say, a Muhammad or a Christ. Those are major manifestations of God. They come with a book, and they change the law that people had by God's permission. They change certain laws. For instance, Christians don't have anything against drinking wine, and Muslims do. Muslims don't drink anything. Don't take intoxicants. And the marriage laws will change, burial laws will change, inheritance laws, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the minor prophets enrich this and explain to the people more about the belief, but they're not, they don't bring a new religion with them. Isaiah was a Jew, people of Moses, and he followed the teachings of Moses. He didn't establish a new world religion, but Moses did, as did Christ and Muhammad and the Bab and Baha'u'llah, Buddha, Hindu, Zoroaster, etc. Okay?
Great,
That's
thank
our
you.
explanation of it.
Yeah,
Okay?
thank you. That was actually very, very good. Before we go to Susan, I also want to just, Trevor, bring to your attention, if you look at Surah 2, verse 23, that's also a very good one that Dalton actually spoke about before. You could also reference that entire verse in the Kitab-i-Iran, the Book of Certitude, paragraph 155, where Baha'u'llah explains the day of revelation. Susan, your question, please. Or
Excuse me.
comment.
Afternoon, everybody. I have two, I think, quick questions. One is, if you look at the surah in the Quran that we have published, we have bought with all the notes, to the right of the English translation, there is something in a circle and some Arabic. Is that the same verse in Arabic?
Yeah, the Arabic is you're reading the Arabic, for instance, you'll see the circle is the number, the Arabic number.
Okay,
You see that?
okay.
now?
Good,
I'm
thank
trying to
you.
mess them up, but you can see it. So this is the Arabic. And so if there's any doubt as to what it actually means, there's the Arabic right next to it. And you can
Okay.
get somebody to go over it with you, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
Because
And-
everything is a translation it's the best that can be done. Yeah.
Okay. And the other question was, you said that some of the hadiths are authenticated and some are not.
Most are authenticated, a few are not.
And is there any guide in here that tells you which ones are not authenticated?
No, what you will discover is as you read them, as you read the hadiths, and you're perfectly welcome to question their validity in your own mind, because they're not part of the revealed writ. These are things that came later.
Mhm.
But some of them just, if you read it, just clearly don't make any sense. For
Okay.
instance, one of the things that is said is that we're going to get 74 virgins in the next life. No, I'm sorry. It doesn't work that way.
Okay.
Anyway, that's not heaven for the 74 virgins. Maybe they don't like the choice. Maybe they'd like to go their own way. So obviously this doesn't make any sense. Another one is that they will be so beautiful that you will be able to see right down to the marrow bone. Well, excuse me, if I
So
saw,
that's kind of a rule of thumb. If it sounds like, boy, how does anybody believe that? It's probably not authenticated.
right, that's right. Yeah,
Okay.
it doesn't make.
Okay.
And
Thank
we just use the idea that if it doesn't make common sense, then probably it can be dismissed. So, yeah, okay.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, so the next thing I wanted to talk about before we go even to the beginning, the second surah, I'm going to show something to you that's very interesting. See if I got it here. Yes, I do. This is another book. Can you read this? Qur'án. You can't read it. You see it at all? Anyone see it?
Yes.
There,
All
better?
I see is it says Quran, but
Yeah.
underneath, I don't know what it says.
Okay, under the title, it says Virtual Presentation of the Miracle. Okay, and it's written by Rashid Khalifa, PhD, and he's in Tucson, Arizona, and you can get this online. I will give you the ISBN number and everything else. Here's the ISBN number. You don't need to copy it down now. I'm going to provide it for you later. So you can get this from Amazon. It doesn't cost too much. Why am I emphasizing this book? Because the gentleman who wrote this book was living in Egypt. He's an Egyptian. And he wanted to know how many times certain letters or certain words were repeated in the Quran. And mainframe computers had just come out. This was back in a while back. And mainframe computers had just come out, and they were powerful enough so that if you put in every word and every letter in the Quran, put it in there and identified it, then he could ask the computer to say, how many times does this letter appear, or this verse appear, or this word appear? When he did that, he came up with something that is really quite amazing. All right. For example, the first verse in the first chapter, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Guess how many letters it has? 19. 19 letters. And then we also discover other things. It was that this verse actually was revealed after verse 74:30. And also that has 19 in it. And it appears each word is used a multiple of 19 times in the Quran. That is, whatever the number is, you can divide it by 19. So for instance, let me give you another example here, and I can show you. Turn to a page where one begins. This is the second chapter, by the way, it's called the chapter of the cow. It's the longest chapter in the Quran. And the other ones are shorter than that. There are other interesting things about the Quran that I'm going to get to and talk about it too. Okay, for instance, now, beginning this, I'm at chapter 3, or Surah 3, the family of Imran. And that's the third chapter. And the first verse of it begins with the letters Alif, Lam, Mim, and they're just laid out there. Then they don't try to make anything out, just Alif, Lam, Mim. They're just made out, laid right out there on it. And then other things begin, but here's what they have written. These letters are one of the miracles of the Quran, and none but God alone knows their meanings. Not anymore. No, we have put them together a little bit. We know quite a bit about them. Alif, Lam, Mim, those three letters appear in the Quran 298 times in this surah, in this chapter, 298 times, and it's used in the whole Quran 5,662 times, which is 298 divided by 19. And everything seems to be a multiple of 19. And then later on in the Quran, we will read where he says, and over it are 19. And we have set their number only as a trial for the unbelievers, and so that the believers may increase in faith. So what do we know about the number 19 in relation to the coming of Baha'u'llah? Well, it's very important. The Baha'i calendar is 19 months of 19 days. And there are many other things that have to do with 19. Okay, so it turns out that there's this code of 19 all through the Quran, left there to be discovered by later generations. And this book that I showed you is the gentleman who discovered it. What he's saying by showing you this is, you see, the Quran actually makes mathematical sense, and it also follows the teaching from the Quran that says, and we wrote it all down with numbers. We signed it all with numbers. Okay, this is very interesting. That's one part that I wanted to bring up. Questions? Okay, that's it. How many of you have read the Kitab-i-Ghan at least once? Okay, those who haven't read it or would like to read it, get yourself a copy. Again, you can get this from the big store, the Amazon store, or you can get it from the Baha'i, your local Baha'i library, or from the Baha'i Publishing Trust. And that's also available online. That is the book that opens up the meaning of the Qur'an. We don't know the meaning of the Qur'an, except that Baha'u'llah has opened the book, unsealed the book. For those of you who come from a Christian background, do you remember the last few words that the messenger, the angel, told Daniel in the book of Daniel? Do you remember the last few words? Go thy way, Daniel, for the book is sealed until the time of the end. People will run to and fro, and knowledge will increase. And he asked again, what do these things mean? Go thy way, Daniel. It's sealed until the time of the end. When was that? About 2,500 years ago. Then we read in the book of Revelations, which is the last book in the Bible, about the angels that come and unseal the 7 seals. And then the 7th seal is unsealed. And they sealed the book. Then it says other things. We can get into that another time. I don't want to move. I've already gone way far astray, but you can see where I'm going with this. And the Kitab Yagan is the book of Certitude is the book that God has revealed for this day that unseals the meaning of all past holy books. Now, some past holy books have done this to some extent. For instance, the Qur'an explained much that was revealed to the Christians and Jews that they did not understand, but it also supported what was written there. But it didn't unseal all the meanings, and indeed, the Qur'an itself had many meanings that were sealed up. The Kitab Yagan unseals them for this day. Okay, losing my voice talking about it. I get so excited, you see. Okay, let's go back to, yes, indeed. Yeah, let's go back to the beginning here, which is the cow. And it begins with the letters, Alif, Lam, Mim. These letters are the miracles. They keep saying this because it's not unsealed for them. They haven't read the Kitab Yagan with the number 19 about it. It says here, verse 2, and Baha'u'llah quotes this in the Kitab Yagan. Alif, Lam, Mim. This is a book whereof there is no doubt, a guidance unto those who are pious believers. Al-Muttaqin, it says. And this is discussed on page 202 of the Yagan, of Kitab Yagan, paragraph 224. So if you have the old edition of the Kitab Yagan, the one that I have, which doesn't have the paragraph numbers, you'll find it discussed on page 202. If you don't, you have the paragraph numbers, you'll find it in paragraph 224. Okay. Questions on that so far? He says, he declares here by these words that this is a book about which there is no doubt. Well, some might say, well, yeah, I got a doubt. You just said it, but that's all. We just have your word on it. So why should we take your word? Aha. How do we know that he's a messenger of God? He brings a book that's from God. He establishes a new law. He reveals things that could not be revealed by an ordinary human being. For instance, no ordinary human being could reveal the Qur'an, nor the Kitab Yagan, nor the Gospels. It had to be a man of God. It had to be a prophet that was sent of God. And this is all discussed in different places, so I won't take too much time on it now. But that's verse 2. And he says that, as you can see, also in this text, the Dar es Salaam text, you will see now following brackets, in brackets like this, the square ones, this long thing, the pious believers of Islamic monotheism who fear God and abstain from all kinds of sins and evil deeds which he has forbidden, da, 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 da. What is in brackets is their interpretation. They're telling you what this is in their mind supposed to mean. And most of the time it makes perfect sense. And then in parentheses, there is an actual transliteration or translation, not transliteration, but interpretation of what they're saying. For instance, in the parentheses, it says, abstain from all kinds of sins and evil deeds which he has forbidden, which God has forbidden. All right, that's very good. Now, who believe in the ghaib, that is the beginning of verse 3. Who believe in the ghaib, G-H-A-I-B, ghaib. And that now you will see in brackets, there's a number there, and you go down into where the number is, which is right on the same page. You can see it there, who believe in the ghaib. I know this is really hard for you if you don't have the book, but who believe in the ghaib. And then down there, you can see where it's written, what is the ghaib? And then there's a description of it there. Literally means a thing that is not seen. So this is important. What do we know about things that are not seen? Well, take for instance, love. We don't see it. Do we believe in it? Yes. Can we see it, touch it, smell it, taste it? No. But it's not seen. And we know it's the most powerful force in nature. It holds the universe together from the smallest atom or quark or quirk or whatever they call them to the largest galaxy and the largest universe, and also holds us together in between. Love is life, and the lack of love is disunity, and disunity is death. If you have a disease in your body, then the body isn't getting along with itself. There's something in there that it doesn't like, it's trying to get rid of, whatever. There's a war going on. And until that war is finished to the benefit of the body, you're going to be sick. But then you're well again, because then the body is in unison, working together. Same thing. Beautiful, isn't it? It all comes together. It all comes together so beautifully. Who believe in the ghaib and perform a salat, which means, what does a salat mean? Now we have a thing down here for two, and two means, there's a whole thing about what the prophet meant by a salat, but generally it means good deeds. You perform prayers, and you also fast when the fasting time comes. So you pray to God, and you believe in him, and you believe that he is the one who answers the prayers. So then it goes on. It goes way on. This is the longest chapter in the whole Qur'an. Another interesting thing about the Qur'an, let me just make another side here. The Qur'an is written in the opposite way in which it was revealed. The first revelations from God to Muhammad were very, very mystical. They didn't have many words in them, and they were very mystical. And they were put at the end of the Qur'an that we have today, because those are the hardest to understand and interpret. The second chapter, second surah, the surah of the cow, and it is the one that is the most replete with daily laws and ordinances that one must follow, and exhortations and instructions. And so if you begin the Qur'an and you begin reading it, the persons who compiled the Qur'an, the original ones, wanted the believers to see what they were supposed to do, what their duty was supposed to be first, and then later on get to the mystical discussions, which were harder. And so that's why the Qur'an is sort of turned on its head in terms of the times in which it was revealed, as opposed to, or as distinct from, the times in which the chapter numbers as it was compiled in the Qur'an. Okay. So, for instance, there's lots of different things here. If I go to, if we're going to go to chapter 2, we're in it, and we go to 2:3, and then 16, 17, we have a look at 16, 17, and I'll read those for you right now, because some of you don't have the book, 16 and 17. 16. These are they who have purchased error for guidance. He's talking about those who are mocking at His Holiness Muhammad. The persons who are mocking at him and saying, just listen to this man and look how he's dressed. Are we to believe in just a human being, that he's from God? We don't believe him. We think he's really in error. We think maybe he's crazy or something. And so he says that, and so the judgment has come down from God about persons who think and act in this way, and they mock the manifestation of God. They have purchased error. They have purchased error for good deeds, and their case is their guidance and their commerce, that is the exchange that they've made, is not profitable unto them. It will not profit them. It is vain. They're clinging to something that is vain. And what do we mean by vain? It has no benefit beyond, say, a momentary benefit, and it's certainly nothing that has no benefit that goes beyond the grave. It's only something that can momentarily, like entertainment to a movie. We all need entertainment. We go to a movie and we go out and say, wow, that was fine. What's to eat? Let's go eat. Yes, it doesn't last very long, and we shouldn't build our lives around it, obviously. Okay. So if I back up a minute and look at 13, and when it is said unto them, the hypocrites, believe as the people have believed, that is, believe as the holy people of the past has believed. And they say, shall we believe as the fools have believed? In other words, the persons who follow you are the persons who society has marginalized. Well, isn't that mostly true? Look at the people who first come into or who are first interested in a religion. What is the main characteristic that we ordinarily see about them? What is it they have in common? They've suffered.
They were outsiders.
They were outsiders because they
They
suffered.
weren't I'm
They
sorry.
weren't accepted, right?
Yeah.
And they weren't accepted because maybe they had a deformity in their face or in their body, or they spoke funny, or they had a different way of dressing, or they lived in a neighborhood that wasn't considered acceptable below the railroad tracks, as we used to say, on the other side of the railroad tracks. By the way, I lived right on the railroad tracks, practically. And things like that. Yes, we find ways to create an us and them, an us and them. And what does God do when he sends these manifestations? He wants to break those barriers down. One time a person went to a wise man and said, but how do you deal with other people? And the wise man said back to him, there are no other people. Okay. Shall we believe as the fools believe? These are the ones who are marginalized by society. And we can quote Christ Jesus at this point because he was very specific about this in the four Gospels. And I'll quote him. He said, and I'm paraphrasing, of course, because I don't remember it exactly. But he says, if you were of the world would love his own. But you're not of the world. I have chosen you out of the world. Therefore, the world hates and persecutes you. Isn't that something?
Yeah.
Then he says, but know ye that if it hates and persecutes you, it has hated and persecuted me before you. And I will not leave you comfortless. I will send the comforter. Okay. So the ones who mock at God, God mocks at them and gives them increase in their wrongdoing to wander blindly through life. In other words, if you want to do wrong, we're going to open up the gates for you, let you do all the wrong you want. You'll really lose your way. If that's what you really want, we'll give it to you. Their likeness, I'm going to continue just following this for a minute. Their likeness is as the likeness of one who kindled a fire. Then, when it lit all around him, God took away their light. Now you understand, you're looking at a bright light and then the light goes away and you can't see anything. You're in the dark because your eyes haven't adjusted to it. God takes away their light and left them in the darkness, so they could not see. All through the teachings of God, it says you must be detached from things. You must not cling to the sayings of human beings or the teachings that you've heard. You must empty your heart of those things and then come to God, and he will reveal things to you. Because as long as you hold firm to certain things which don't have any basis in fact, that are actually superstitious or non-scientific, as long as you do that, the other thing can't come in because it's being blocked. The door is closed and nothing can enter it until that's opened and you have an open mind to see. If you look at the teachings of His Holiness Muhammad as they are revealed in the Qur'an, you will discover that it is absolute perfect logic and rational analysis. And when you look at the four Gospels and what Christ Jesus said, the same is true. He spoke with rational analysis. He said certain things about himself and about God and about life and about us and each other that we can test. He said, for instance, pray to God, see what happens. Knock and it shall be given unto you. Seek and ye shall find. The door shall be open, and seek and ye shall find. Have you done it? Okay, these are testable. The statements he made are testable. You can test them and see if they're correct or incorrect. They're not just, oh, this is great, and oh, that's wonderful, and you should do this. That's good as far as it goes, but the foundation of that has to be a rational analysis. And all the messengers of God came with that, came with the power. Why? The first thing they had to do was to break down people's superstitious beliefs so that then they could begin to accept logic and rational analysis. But as long as they held to superstitions, no, that's not what we found our forefathers walking in a path, and in their way shall we certainly follow. I met a man on the subway once, and we got talking, and I asked him, well, what religion do you think you should follow? He says, well, the oldest one. He was a Hindu. And what do you follow? I say, the youngest one. He said, bah, that's ridiculous. Why would you follow the one that's just been revealed? Well, because that one applies to the problems of this day, the day in which we live. Okay, so let's go on. Let's look at, say, go to 38. We have a little bit of time left. We have about 5 minutes. I'm going to open this to more questions. And okay, so let's see. Look at, if for those who have it, look at verse 28. If you don't have it, I'm going to read it to you. And next time we'll have it, I will share it with you on the screen. How can you disbelieve in God, seeing that you were dead, and he gave you life? Then he will give you death, and again, he will bring you back to life. So what does it mean you were dead and then you were brought back to life? Have we come across this before in any of the writings of the prophets of God, the messengers of God? Let's see. Let the dead bury their dead. That come to mind?
It means spiritually dead.
It means spiritually dead, right? You were spiritually dead, and I breathed into you the breath of life, and you became a living soul. This is the real life because it's not followed by death. Death does not overtake it. And there are many explanations as to why the soul never dies. It was created and it cannot be destroyed. You were born and you'll never die. Whereas the body that we inherit, of course, that we inhabit, will die, and it will separate out into all the different constituent parts, and we'll start over again. But the soul is not like that. The dream is another example of the soul. And it's given quite a lengthy explanation by Baha'u'llah when he says that you're asleep and all of a sudden you're traveling somewhere. And maybe we've all had this sort of deja vu, or as Yogi Berra used to say, deja vu all over again. where you think you think you've seen something or been here before. I have absolutely had that. I hated cities. I didn't never want to leave and live in a city. Then when I moved back to the city after certain events forced me to, I was in New York and I was standing on 6th Avenue, looking down 6th Avenue. And that was right out of a dream. Where the sun was, it was November, everything about it, the noise, the smell, everything. Right out of a dream I had seen years ago, and I couldn't make any sense out of it because who's going to go to a city? I could not imagine them doing that. But I ended up living in it. Here I am. Okay, so these persons, then you'll have physical death, and then you'll be raised to life again. That is, when you have physical death, you actually are going to be introduced into the next life. Be quite sudden. That's all the time we have. There is one more thing I'll say here. Verse 29, if you look at that, and he made the heavens, and he made 7 heavens. Okay, why 7 heavens? All right, when was the Quran revealed? About 680 or 670, 640, somewhere in there, AD, right? Okay. This is the last revelation in this line of revelations that came from God that began with who? Adam. And who was the next one? Noah. Then Abraham. Then Moses. That's 4. Then Christ Jesus. Then Muhammad. That's 6. Each one of those revelations bestows a heaven of the knowledge of God upon us. That's why it says the world of knowledge, that is, was made in 7 days, 6 days, and then God rested from his work. We still have a 7th heaven. I'm going to the 7th heaven. That used to be something we said as a kid, or we heard our parents say when we were kids. And the 7th heaven is the heaven that begins the first day of the next week, because it said God rested from his work. Then what? Quit? No, he started a new week. We started a whole new cycle. We had the Adamic cycle that began with Adam and ended with Muhammad. Now we begin a new cycle. Now we make sense out of the 7 days and the 6 days and all the rest of it. Now it's easy to understand that. Easier to understand it. There's much more to it than that. All right, you have been a terrific group. I haven't gotten any hate mail yet. It's amazing. Maybe I'll get it when we're finished, because I've been very disrespectful of you coming in late, as I was called to an emergency, and so I had to go out. Just came in when we started. Thank you, Nede, saved us as usual. This is hosted by Neda. She is responsible for all the technicalities that go beyond me. You know, I'm a retired economist, so what do I know about technical things? Aren't economists always wrong? Okay. Any questions at all? Because our meeting time is just about up. So we can leave now, or I can hang around if somebody wants to ask more questions, but if there is another class proceeding after this one, then we do need to call it quits. Okay?
Awesome. Actually, Dalton, can you give me the website for the Noble Quran online?
Yes, or you can just Google the Noble Quran and it
It's
will
just
come right
called,
up.
so it's noblequran.com. Well, I
Right.
found it, but I didn't find any English on it.
Well, Noble Quran. Don't put .com, the Noble Quran. And then it
Okay.
will come up. The Noble Quran will come up and it will have it will give you the translation in English. And what I will do is, if you all have the email, when you signed up for class, I will send you out in email form the website
Okay.
for the Noble Quran. And what you will see is, you're basically going to see something that looks like this. Okay, the Noble Quran. And then
Mhm.
you're going to, and then you'll scroll down that. Isn't that something? We started with scrolls and then we ended up with books and now we're back to scrolls again. Okay. You're going to scroll down that and it will have each chapter and you can click on a chapter and you can read it yourself or you can have it read to you.
Okay.
And when they read it to you, of course, they're going to read it in Arabic and they're going to read it in what's called Tajweed Arabic, where it's not really pronounced as the way we would say Allahu Akbar or something. It's all sung out. It's that kind of very stylized way of saying the Quran, which, by the way, Baha'u'llah loved. He loved to hear it. According to what I read in the Revelation of Baha'u'llah, volumes 1 through 4,
Okay.
by Khadem Taherzadeh.
So there is no English?
No, there is. You can read the English for yourself, just as I'm reading it. But if you want it recited to you, it will be recited according to the correct Arabic way.
Yeah. So
Otherwise, you just read it off the page. It's right. It's right there on the
know
page.
that.
Yeah, and you just roll down, and you can
And the
jump.
web, and
Hmm?
what is that website,
If
Dalton?
if you just go on and say the Noble Quran,
Right, which I did,
and it
but
came
there's
up.
a lot of references to that.
Oh, okay. The Noble Quran website just came up to me, and it will say interpretation and meanings of the Noble Quran. And what you want is where it has the book, where you can just you can download the book and put it right on your desktop. If you'll give me just a second, if you want to wait.
Sure, I can wait. Thank
Okay,
you.
well, I'm going to find this then for you right now.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, let me just drop you down for a minute while I look at this. It's going to be in here. I think it's in, let's see, also binder, writer, desktop elements. Invoices, leases, quick desktop elements. There we go. And we go up to here and we have right with you. Here. I'm trying to look in documents. I think it's a PDF. So if I look in PDFs,
Okay, well, maybe I'll just put the Noble Quran PDF.
well, you can do that.
Try that.
Should come up here in a minute and I can pull it out.
Okay,
HIJKLM Nur. Nope, it's not in this file. All right, I can't find it at the moment. I'm very, very sorry. I should have put this
It's
all on
okay.
my desktop before I went out, but I really didn't have the opportunity to
no
do that.
problem. I think I just found it.
Okay, great. Great. Yeah,
Okay,
it's not hard to find. You just,
I just put in PDF
mhm.
and it, okay. Okay,
There are
perfect.
so many incredible things in the Quran that we're going to come across. Let me just open up here again. There's so many incredible things that you're going to see. For instance, one of the things it's going to say is you're going to come across a verse that will say, and with hands did we make the heavens, and with hands did we create the heavens. Now, if you think about that, physical hands created the heavens. We have learned that we live on a round globe and that the heavens is really the stratosphere followed by nothingness until you hit another planet that might be nearby. So it ain't up there. And so hands couldn't have done it. What does it mean? Well, what does heaven mean? Heaven is the knowledge of God, because from heaven comes the rain that comes down on the soil of our hearts of understanding to create great fruit. You see how it all fits together? It all fits together so tightly. And he says, and with hands did we make the cause? Did we create the heavens? What is one of the, there are a group of persons who have served in the Baha'i faith. They are gone now. Their duties have been replaced. But what did they used to be called? What were they called when they lived?
Hands of the cause.
Yes. Hands of the cause of God.
Wow.
They created the heaven of understanding for us. They showed us how we were supposed to live, what we were supposed to do. They were the example for us.
Wow.
Yes. And with
Wow.
hands did we create the heavens.
Oh, amazing.
Isn't that
Oh,
something? We're going to hit so many of those, thousands of them. Just wonderful.
Thank you
Okay.
so much, everyone, for joining us for our first session. We do have just a few minutes left. So if there are any questions, feel free to use the raise your hand feature. And if not, we will definitely see you next week. Please know these sessions are being recorded. You can find them on our YouTube page. The announcement will be made on Baha'iChronicles.org. We do ask that you give us 48 hours, though. Okay.
thank you. Thank you so much, Nada. Thank you, Dalton.
Our pleasure.
Amazing. Absolutely
Pleasure.
amazing.
Believe me, God willing, it'll go smoother next time.
Hey, I got